How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Hip Drop Podcast. Lucas and I are here after the Monday Night Football doubleheader between the Dolphins and the Jets, and the Broncos and the Bengals just wrapped up. The Broncos got a much-needed win, took it to the Joe Burrowless Bengals, 28-3, and honestly didn't feel that close. The Bengals just couldn't do anything. Jake Browning was under duress all night. Bo Nix was efficient, and Lucas. Before I ask how you're doing, we're going to recap all the games from week 4, and then next Wednesday, we are going to look ahead to week 5. So we're gonna go back, what happened in week 4, go through each game. We'll spend a little time on each game, a little bit of implications, but not too much, and then we'll move ahead to week 5, previewing those games there. But first of all, Lucas, how you doing? Right after week 4 wrapped up.
I am doing all right. I am just ready to talk about these games. I mean, the Monday night games are pretty forgettable, except for like
Yeah.
one key part of one of the games. We might talk about that, but just
Yes.
ready to do a quick recap of what happened this week.
Yeah, and Lucas and I will be in a somewhat celebratory mood because the team that we primarily cover, the Kansas City Chiefs, might be back. So we'll talk about that once we get to that game against the Ravens. But first of all, Broncos Bengals. The Broncos win 28-3. Look, sorry, Falcons fans. The Broncos improved to 2-2. The Bengals fall to 2-2, and I gotta be. I don't want to take anything away from the Broncos because they're a team that I had some expectations for. I picked them to make the playoffs, but did not look great through 3 weeks. They were on it tonight. Their defense was as advertised in the offseason, albeit against a backup quarterback. Bo Nix, outside of one completely boneheaded interception, was efficient, did his job. But we got to talk about the Bengals. I mean, this team, I understand you're without Burrow, and when you lose a player of that caliber, it really kind of takes it down to a significant level, but they couldn't do anything. I think this is going to get out of hand really quickly for the Bengals. And when you look at their upcoming schedule, it's not friendly. You have the Lions at home next week, and Fox. That was supposed to be the primary game on Fox, and they took it out and you saw why tonight. Then they're at Green Bay. They play the Steelers at home. So 2-5 is on the table for this Bengals team, and I just think it could get out of hand quickly. They have been outscored. They have scored a total of 13 points in their last 2 games. They've been completely blown out in both of them. 48-10 to the Vikings last week. 28-3 tonight. Um, Before we get to the Broncos, Lucas, how cooked are the Bengals? Even though they're only 2-2.
They are cooked. Joe Burrow was covering up a lot of crap. I'm still not convinced about the Broncos, though. Bo Nix played better. Wasn't still not totally convinced in Denver. I need to see them be competitive or beat a really good team. They have the
Yeah,
Eagles next week. Let's see how they do.
yeah. I mean, the Broncos, they did what they had to do. They won a game they needed to win to stay up in pace with the Chiefs and the Chargers in the division. But I agree with that. I would still like to see a little more from the Broncos.
Yep.
Beating Jake Browning and the Titans doesn't cut it for me. They have probably their biggest test of the year in Philadelphia next week. But kudos to the Broncos. They won a game that they absolutely had to win. All right, let's go back to last Thursday. Very entertaining. A game that was very boring for a while, but ended up being pretty entertaining. An NFC West matchup on Thursday Night Football. The Seahawks beat the Cardinals 23-20. Seattle improves to 3-1. The Cardinals fall to 2-2. They lose their second straight on a last second field goal. And Lucas, the Seattle Seahawks are 3-1, a team that I picked to go 6-11 this year, a team that you also picked to finish last in their division. They're playing really good football on both sides of the ball. Sam Darnold has played exceptional football this year. Outside of a shaky performance in week 1, he has been really good, proving that he wasn't a complete product of Kevin O'Connell and that environment with the Vikings last year. And defensively, Seattle, we expect them to be good, but Mike McDonald really has been playing well. They have a really good front with Leonard Williams, and their secondary with Witherspoon and on the back end. They're Ernest Jones at linebacker. They have guys who just know their role and play strong defense. As for the Cardinals, they were completely anemic for most of this game. Tyler Murray did come alive late. They tied the game, but ultimately they lose on a game winner. So, Lucas, what does this game tell you about the Seahawks? Are you ready to buy them as legitimate?
I think they're a legitimate playoff team. I was wrong about Sam Darnold. I thought he was going to crumble outside of a Kevin O'Connell offense, but he's been amazing this year. He's been pushing the ball down the field. Only one turnover-worthy play this year, so he's been taking care of the ball with great chemistry with JSN, and Mike McDonald's really coaching up that defense. They're, I think, a sneakily more talented team than we give them credit for. I don't think they're a Super Bowl team, but I'm comfortable with picking them to make the playoffs as a wild card at this point.
Yeah, I see that vision. I definitely underrated them before the year. And as for the Cardinals, I mean, it's tough to lose in the last play
Yeah.
back-to-back weeks. They got some work to do. Luckily for them, they get the Titans this week, so that could be a good a
Yeah,
get right
Kyler has
game
to. Yeah.
for
Kyler has
for
to
an
be more clutch.
yeah. I agree. Although he did come through at the end in this one. Um,
But
they have a
in
must-win
general,
game
yeah,
against the Titans and a get-right game for them, and a Cardinals team that I still don't really know what to make of this thus far.
yeah.
All right. Next up, we go overseas. Steelers Vikings. The Steelers beat the Vikings 24-21. They are up 24-6 at one point. They almost blew the game. Ultimately held on to win. Pittsburgh improves to 3-1 going into their bye. The Vikings fall to 2-2. Um, this was a weird game because the Steelers largely dominated this game. They sacked Carson Wentz 8 times. Rodgers was efficient. He wasn't great, but he was efficient. 18 of 22 for 200 yards and a touchdown. But I thought a big takeaway from this game was Mike Tomlin's end of game management was very, very questionable. Punting the ball back to Minnesota. Luckily, Carson Wentz did his thing and the Steelers won. But I don't know what to make of the Steelers. I mean, they're winning these games. This was probably their best performance of the year. And the Vikings, it kind of feels like they're wasting a pretty talented roster due to the fact that you don't really feel good about their quarterback situation. JJ McCarthy did not look great when he was in. Obviously, Carson Wentz isn't the answer. So, Lucas, how are you feeling about your hometown team right now? They've been very, very shaky outside of one game against the Bengals. And as we saw tonight, the Bengals without Joe Burrow were just a sub-professional team.
Yeah, I'm not confident in the quarterback play for Minnesota this year. I think JJ McCarthy will get better, but
Yeah.
whether he gets better when the Eagles come to town in 2 weeks is a big question. Their offensive line has not been very good this year. They need to get their horses healthy. Their defense quietly has been kind of like meh this year, outside of that Bengals game, which that Cincinnati game looks like it tells us more about the Bengals than it tells us about the Vikings. But I still think they'll compete for a wild card spot, but I don't think they're going to win the NFC North this year.
Yeah, and I picked them to make the playoffs. I still think they can, depending how McCarthy plays. I mean, Wentz is starting one more game against Cleveland. I mean, he's just not it. I mean, he just is who he is at this point. As for the Steelers, they won the game. Good for them. They're atop the AFC North. They have a big opportunity ahead of them with all the injuries the Ravens have. We'll get to them later. So I mean, all the Steelers need to do is keep winning games. Lucas, did this change your opinion on them?
Not really.
Okay.
I think the Steelers might be like a wild card team, but I'm not. I'm still not convinced they're any good.
All right. Well, we won't know for a while because their next two games are against the Browns and the Bengals. All right.
Yep.
Falcons Commanders. The Falcons beat the Commanders 34-27. Michael Penix had a nice bounce back game. He threw for over 300 yards in this one. Atlanta puts up 34 points after 0 last week. The Commanders, I mean, Mariota played, okay in this one. They did this, that this was the game they missed Jaden Daniels, which they did not last week. So Washington, they drop a game without their starter. They hopefully get Daniels back this week against the Chargers, and Atlanta gets a must-needed win to improve to 2-2.
Yep. Michael Penix had a real bounce back game. If this is the Penix that the Falcons get the rest of the year, they will compete for a playoff spot. But I think also the real story is how well Jalen Walker played in that game. I think
Yeah,
he had the best game of his young career. Didn't necessarily have the sack totals, didn't get a sack, but I thought he played very well in limited action. I think because he was a off-ball linebacker and a pass rusher convert, I think with more games he'll get better. And if he could hit, then the Falcons are cooking because they're playing a lot of rookies on that defense in prominent roles. If they can get a couple of those guys to play well down the stretch, the Falcons, I think, will compete for a wild card spot, but probably won't win a game in the playoffs.
yeah. I mean, I think they're like, I don't know. I picked them to go 9-8 this year. Obviously, I think that game against Carolina was a bit of a fluke because the other three games they played pretty well. They easily could have beat Tampa. They destroyed Minnesota in primetime, and they beat
Yep.
a Washington team even undermanned is a decent football team, I think. And the
Yeah.
Commanders, they got to get healthy and
And I will say,
get
and
rolling
I
a
will
little bit
say,
here.
yeah, one more thing I forgot to say. Marcus Mariota has been excellent. Like he
Yeah,
has not been the problem for the Commanders this
no,
year.
I
Like
don't.
yes,
No, their
he has a PFF
defense.
grade of 91.8 through both games. He's been excellent. One turnover worthy play, which was that pick against Atlanta. But other than
Mhm.
that, he's basically done as much as he's played about as well as you possibly could have. I'm not convinced they still would have won this game with Jane Daniels.
No, I don't think that's so either. I mean, their defense was atrocious. I mean, they gave up 34 points to an offense that scored 0 last week. But they went 1-1 without their starter. That's about well as you could ask. But moving on to the next game. This was a weird one. Bills Saints. The Bills win to improve to 4-0. They're the only undefeated team left in the AFC. The Saints, the only winless team in the AFC, but this, or excuse me, the NFC. But this game was a lot closer than many expected. The final score was 31-19. But the Saints were really in this game for a while. The Bills pulled ahead late. Lucas, the Bills have been kind of a weird team this year, whereas they're 4-0. I mean, they're rightfully considered Super Bowl favorites in the AFC. But outside of one game against the Jets, I mean, they have not played great. I mean, they had one great fourth quarter against the Ravens, and they were in kind of somewhat dogfights against two very, very bad teams at home. So they're a team that, like, their offense is excellent. They scored 30 points in every game, but their defense and their head coach still kind of scare me. They haven't really proven that, like, they're any different than previous years. And for the Saints, I mean, there's not much to say about them. They're terrible. I mean, they kudos them for being competitive, but they're not good at all. I mean, not much to say about New Orleans.
Yeah, I think the Saints might be scrappy down the stretch. I don't think they're going to be the worst team in football. I think they're better than the record indicates, but I still think they're a bottom five team, but maybe closer to five than one. The Bills, they haven't passed the eye test other than the fourth quarter against the Ravens. We'll see. There's upcoming schedules, not exactly super duper daunting. They got the Patriots on Sunday Night Football, then the Falcons and the Panthers on the road, then the Chiefs. I think that Chiefs game is going to tell us a lot about Buffalo. I think they'll be undefeated heading into that game, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm not convinced they're clearly the best team in the AFC.
Yeah, I don't know about that either. I would have said that before this game because I expected them to destroy New Orleans because they're basically off a mini bye at home, and they did not do that. Spencer Rattler played decently well. Actually played, pretty well, I think. Not bad at all. Josh Allen threw his first interception of the year, but he was solid, I would say. Much better than he was the last two games.
Yeah.
But you should be able to blow out the Saints. The Bills weren't able to, but they won the game, and that's what ultimately matters. All right, next
Yep.
game here, Lions Browns. The Lions beat the Browns 34-10. Uh the Browns did not get a great game from Joe did not get a good game from Joe Flacco. Again, he threw two picks. One of them was one of the worst interceptions I've ever seen. I don't know how much longer the Browns are going to roll out Joe Flacco out there. He has been putrid this season. Jared Goff wasn't spectacular either, but he did his job. The Lions, they got after Flacco. They ran the ball efficiently, and they did what they had to do. I said last week the Lions won me back with that win over Baltimore. They are absolutely contenders in the NFC, and they did what contenders do. They beat a bad team at home by 24 points, and they moved to 3-1. And then they get the Bengals next week. So the Lions are sitting pretty good at this moment, and they are in first place in the NFC North.
Yep. Yeah, I think I was wrong about the Lions. I thought they were going to have a slow start due to their coordinator turnover, but that slow start lasted all of 1 week. But no,
Yeah.
they're back. I think they're a top two team in the NFC. After the Eagles, you could convince me they're the second best team in the NFC
Oh,
easily.
for sure. Yeah.
And even more importantly, Aiden Hutchinson is back. Like, Aiden Hutchinson dominated this game. Myles Garrett played amazing, and he's the best pass rusher in football, but Aiden Hutchinson outplayed him and was great in this game. Detroit's going to be a problem down the stretch, and they have the Bengals next week. That could be another slaughter for the Cincinnati Kitties.
Absolutely. And you'll see why Fox opted out of that game as their feature matchup. As for the Browns, like we know, I mean, their defense is very good. Myles Garrett has once again been amazing this year, but they're just so punchless offensively. As bad as Flacco has been, Dylan Gabriel and Shador Sanders are not making a difference. The Browns are probably going to win like 3 or 4 games this year. They just
Yep.
can't score. Speaking of teams that can't score, the Titans literally didn't score against the Texans. They fall to 0-4. They get shut out 26-0. The Texans get a much, much needed victory, their first of the year. This was close for a while. It was 6-0 at one point, but the Texans pulled away late. CJ Stroud was, better, was probably at his best game of the year, which is not an exceptionally high bar. And the Titans, Cam Ward really struggled in this one, although once again, he has no help in Tennessee. Brian Callahan does not have much longer there. I actually halfway expected him to be fired after this game. He was not, but I think it's kind of a matter of when and not if. I feel like he's completely lost the locker room. He's 3-18 as their head coach. He's just not a head coach. I mean, he's a fine offensive coordinator, I'm sure, but like as a head coach, he ain't it. And the Texans, they had to win this game if they wanted any shot of salvaging their season, and they got it done. And they're going to Baltimore to face an absolutely banged up Ravens team. So the Texans, they got a confidence builder, and the Titans season's over before it hits October.
Yeah, Brian Callahan. The Titans are the worst team in football. I think they somehow might be worse than last year, which I didn't know was possible. But Their offensive line was atrocious. I'm still a believer in Cam Ward. This is more about the supporting cast. Their
Yeah,
tackle play was a joke against the Texans. It just what is a good thing about the Texans right now? But they're poorly coached on both are the Titans. They're
yeah.
poorly coached on both sides of the ball. And other than quarterback, they have like no premium players. And Cam Ward's not even a sure thing yet.
Exactly. And then as for the Texans, look, their defense is legitimately awesome, which is why I picked them to win the AFC South. Their offense is obviously a really struggling unit. We'll see if they figure out. I don't have a ton of confidence, but they had to win this game to keep their season alive. All right. Speaking of their seasons not being alive, the Panthers, my goodness, they go to New England, they get absolutely clubbed 42-13 by the Patriots. The Panthers fall to 1-3. Things are looking pretty grim in Carolina. They've been absolutely putrid outside of one kind of fluky game against Atlanta and then the fourth quarter against Arizona. And Drake May, Panthers defense, I know, but Drake May was excellent in this game. I'm going to look up his stat line real quick. So Drake May against the Panthers, like had a pass rating of 155.6 through 2 touchdowns, no picks, completed 80% of his passes, which is excellent. Bryce Young, once again, did not play well. The Panthers, like they were a team that like I thought would be somewhat frisky this year. I had them going 7-10. I don't see 7 wins on the schedule, and I don't see a scenario where Bryce Young is in Carolina next year. And as for New England, like I said, like they had to win this game. You're playing a team that you should beat at home. They literally handed the Steelers a win last week, so a good bounce back performance for the New England Patriots.
Yeah, I as someone who invested a lot into the Patriots this year in one of my main and my only redraft fantasy league, because I have May as my QB2 and started him because I also have Jaden Daniels. And I also bet on Hunter Henry as one of my committee tight ends. That bet has paid off nicely. I I think this game tells us more about the Panthers. That game against the Falcons was just a total fluke. That's going to be one of those
Yeah,
games down the road where we're going to be like, what the heck happened? How did the
yeah.
Panthers of all team get a shutout? It just doesn't make any sense. May played well, but I don't think this. I'm still not convinced this Patriots team is like very good. I think they might be
I'm not
rival
either.
for a playoff spot, but they're
Yeah,
probably going to be an 8 to 9 win team, and maybe they get in as a 7 seed as a wild card, as a tie
yeah.
off a
Like
tiebreaker.
Yeah, I think it was more about the Panthers just being putrid. And they play the Dolphins next week, a game that should not be on television, even though the Dolphins did get a win tonight to their credit. All right, Giants Chargers. The Jackson Dart era starts off with a victory. The Giants win 21-18, handing the Chargers their first loss of the year. The Giants get their first win of the year. Brian Daboll lives to see another day. And look, kudos to Jackson Dart. He certainly is an upgrade over Russell Wilson. He gave them a shot in the arm. You know, he was effective with his legs. He didn't do much throwing the ball, but he did throw a touchdown to Theo Johnson. He had no turnovers. And for the Chargers, Lucas, you got this one right. I called you out for picking the Chargers to lose this game, and I was like, "You're crazy. There's no way the Giants win." And lo and behold, the Chargers chargered. They scored less than 20 points against the Giants. Justin Herbert had his worst game of the year. He threw 2 interceptions. The offensive line really struggled with Joe Alt out. Malik Neighbors, unfortunately, also tore his ACL. He is out for the year. So the MetLife turf really did its number today. Malik Neighbors is one of the most exciting players in the league. It's unfortunate he's out. Joe Alt is not out for the year, but he's out for a few weeks. So the Chargers, if you're the Chargers, you had a chance to really pull ahead in the AFC West, and now it looks like it might be the Chiefs division once again. That's a game that the Chargers had to win against a rookie quarterback making his first start, and they didn't get it done. They completely chargered this one away.
Exactly. And I don't think Jackson Dart nor Russell Wilson played that well in that game. I thought Jackson Dart, frankly, stunk other than maybe his rushing touchdown. He played awful in this game. But the story of this game is the Chargers' offensive
He
line
played
without Joe
better than
Alt.
Russell Wilson has played in 2 of the 3 games.
Sure, but
Yeah,
Jackson Dart still stunk. But granted, he played a good defense. The story of this game is the Chargers' offensive line without Joe Alt could not block the Giants at all. Maybe they could block Washington and Miami coming up, but man, if they don't have Joe Alt for the next 3 games, like I could see them going 1-2 over that stretch with the Commanders, Dolphins, and Colts, and maybe even the
yeah,
Vikings if Alt is still out for that game.
yeah. I mean, Joe Alt's probably outside of Herbert, he's the most offensive, or he is the most important offensive player, bar none. Good for the Giants. I mean, all of a sudden for the Giants, look, they got the Saints next week, so maybe you get to 2-3, but they're not winning many games this year. All right, next game. This was an interesting one. Eagles Bucks. The Eagles win to remain 4-0. They beat the Bucks 31-25. The Bucks suffer their first defeat of the year. So the Eagles won this game despite the fact that Jalen Hurts did not complete a single pass in the second half. He was really good in the first half, not so much in the second. Baker Mayfield did not play particularly well. He threw an ugly interception in the red zone. He threw another pass that Cooper DeJean should have picked off, but he dropped. So the Bucks lose. The Bucks are also beat to hell. They're without Luke Gedeke. They're without Mike Evans. Chris Godwin did come back. But the Eagles, look, they did what they had to do. They got the win. It wasn't always pretty. It looked like they were up 31-13 at one point. They got pretty conservative in the second half. This Eagles team is really kind of reminded me of the 2024 Chiefs, where they're winning, but like but there's a but. But they have the championship DNA. They have, in my opinion, the most talented team in football. And I mean, you can't do any better than 4-0. And as for the Bucks, I mean, I still think they're really good. I still think they'll easily win that division. But Baker Mayfield's got to play a little better than he has this year. Outside of the game against the Jets and that last drive against Houston, he's been a little shaky this year. I think he'll turn it around. The interception in the red zone's inexcusable. But the Eagles ultimately get it done despite a pretty anemic second half offensively.
Yeah, I'm going to hold myself to the same standards I was last year. I wanted people to hold the Chiefs to. Eagles are the defending champs. They're 4-0. I'm not worried about them. I do think they have some things they need to clean up, especially in the passing game. The fact that Devontae Smith and AJ Brown were pretty much ghosts for the second game in a row, or for not the first game this season, is concerning. Jalen Hurts needs to get better at throwing the ball outside the numbers, but they're undefeated. I don't know what else you can ask of them. I guess you'd rather be 4-0, an ugly 4-0, than a pretty 2-2.
That is correct. And they were 2-2 at this point last year. But again, Jalen Hurts, great first half, but he's got to do a better job at getting those two receivers involved than he has this year outside of that second half against the Rams. We'll see how they do against the Broncos next week. All right, afternoon slate, Rams, Colts. The Rams hand the Colts their first loss of the year. They win 27-20. This was the Adonai Mitchell game, and for all the wrong reasons. Adonai Mitchell went full Deshaun. Actually, it wasn't a Deshaun Jackson. He just dropped the ball short of the goal line, fumbled out of the back of the end zone. He also had a crucial holding penalty on an insane touchdown run by Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor has probably been the best back in football this year. He has been unbelievably good. And as for the Rams, Matthew Stafford bounced back after a shaky performance against the Eagles. He threw a go-ahead touchdown to a wide-open Tutu Atwell. He threw other touchdowns to Puka Nacua, who was once again awesome in this game. Devontae Adams caught a touchdown. Daniel Jones probably had his, rockiest game as a Colt thus far. He threw 2 interceptions, including the game loser. But the Colts showed me something in this game, Lucas. Like the fact that they were competitive against a Rams team that I think is 100% a Super Bowl contender showed me a lot. I do think they're a legitimately good team. I think they're easily the best team in the AFC South, even though Jacksonville's also 3-1. They just lost to a team that's better, and they lost because of stupid mistakes by their second-year receiver.
Yeah, I even though I thought the Colts were going to lose this game from the start, I walked away impressed. Adonai Mitchell, we got the full experience today, or in week 4.
Yesterday, yeah.
He's ultra talented, but like, dang, he's there was a reason he fell as late in the draft as he did back in the 2024 draft. There were a lot of stuff that we didn't know about. Chris Ballard came out and vehemently defended him immediately after the draft, saying a lot of those reports are BS. And I understand it's a fumble, but like, dude, like you gotta secure the ball in the end zone. You just gotta you're too young to be doing that stuff. You're not a Hall of Famer. But I will say Daniel Jones was horrible on deep balls.
Yeah, I mean,
1 of 6.
This was his worst game as a Colt. He did not play well.
Yeah, 1 of 6. And the one he did complete was the one to Adonai Mitchell that he fumbled.
Yeah.
But he had 2 turnover-worthy plays and was awful. But I still believe in the Colts. I think they're going to win the AFC South still, unless they lose both to Houston.
And like looking at the AFC, not to get too far, off topic, the Colts could maybe win a playoff game. I don't think they're a contender for the Super Bowl. I need to see a little more to go there. But I mean, they're a team that I think could be in the divisional round at least. As for the Rams, nice bounce back win. I think they're easily in that cream of the crop in the NFC. And Matthew Stafford is a big reason why. Another big game for him. All right. Jags Niners. The Jags improved to 3-1. I did not see that coming. This was easily their most impressive win of the year. The Niners suffered their first loss of the year in the return of Brock Purdy, and Brock Purdy was not particularly good in this game. He threw 2 bad interceptions. He also had a fumble. Trevor Lawrence was not great either. He kind of managed the game. It was kind of the Travis Etienne show offensively. And this Jaguars defense, Lucas, has been one of the more surprising units in the league. They lead the league in takeaways. They forced 3 turnovers in this game. They have 13 takeaways this year. And for a defense that was the worst in football, I mean, the Jaguars defense was horrific last year. So credit to them. And look, the Jaguars flying under the radar, 3-1. They're in primetime next week against our Chiefs. So we'll see how that goes. As for the Niners, they drop a game at home. They're just beat to all hell. I mean, Bosa's out for the year. They're getting Kittle back soon, but he's out for a couple more games, at least one more game. Purdy's back, but like he didn't look like himself. He wasn't as mobile as he usually is. He's got to cut down on the interceptions. He's on 4 interceptions in 2 games. He's got to clean that up a little more.
Yeah.
But I think it's more of a good win for Jacksonville than a bad loss for the Niners. I still think the Niners are a playoff caliber team, but maybe Jacksonville, we need to start respecting them a little more. We'll see how they do against the Chiefs next week.
Yeah, I mean, I think this says more about the Jaguars defense being for real. They forced the most turnovers in the NFL by a wide margin. And I think a key story is their offense has been bad.
No, it has. It's not been good.
Look, I'm looking at amazing stats right now. Out of all quarterbacks in the NFL with at least 33 pass attempts, with at least 33 pass attempts, Trevor Lawrence is one of 3 to not have a single big time throw per PFF. The other 2 are Joe Burrow, who got hurt early in the week 2 game against the Jaguars, and Carson Wentz, who's a backup. He has 0 big time throws and 7 turnover worthy plays. Brian Thomas Jr. seems to be going through a sophomore slump. Travis Hunter has not been living up to expectations. Glass half full is once this offense figures it out, this Jaguars team could be very scary to play. Glass half empty is how much longer can they keep forcing 3+ turnovers per game on defense?
Yeah, that doesn't feel completely sustainable. It's very similar to the Steelers. I mean, the Jags and the Steelers are similar teams where they're 3-1, but you're not sure how the way they're winning is sustainable. And Trevor Lawrence needs to simply play better. I think the 3-1 record is shielding him from a lot of criticism because winning cures all. But he's got to play much better than he has this year. He's got to be more accurate. He's got to be more consistent. They need more from their quarterback, but their defense is getting the job done in the early season. All right. The big game, Lucas. Chiefs Ravens. The Chiefs destroy the Ravens 37-20. The most points the Chiefs have scored since week 3 of 2023. So literally over 2 years. That was against the Bears. Patrick Mahomes threw 4 touchdowns in this game to 4 different receivers. And as for the Ravens, they're just a mash unit. Lamar Jackson left this game early with an injury. They lost Roquan Smith. They lost Marlon Humphrey. They lost Nate Wiggins. It was just a disaster for the Ravens. They're all of a sudden 1-3 and looking pretty bleak at the moment. But Lucas, the Chiefs, is the Chiefs offense back?
I think it is. I understand a lot. I understand a lot of people are going to say, "Oh, the Baltimore Ravens were hurt on defense." I get that, but if you look at this Chiefs offense for the last couple of years, they haven't played well against objectively bad defenses. Like this is the first time they scored 31+ points in a regular season game since 2023, and I don't care. And they easily could have scored more. They left points on the board. Harrison Butker missed a field goal. They took their foot off the gas towards the end. I thought this looked very good. I don't think Mahomes, contrary to popular belief, I don't think he played that well. I thought he played well, but I think Mahomes easily left a lot of yards on the field. He missed a couple deep balls.
He missed a throw to Worthy down the field, yeah.
But I think that's a good thing. The fact they scored 37 points and Mahomes played like a B- game. Because I think Worthy, it did not appear that he has missed a step. It was very clear that he didn't want to get tackled, but he was getting open, which is all that matters. Once he gets healthier and once Rashee Rice comes back, I really do think this offense has the potential to return to a top 5 to 7 status consistently, as long as the offensive line can hold up as well. And I have to mention it. I know I'm talking a lot. Kingsley Suamataia played excellent in week 4.
Oh, he was very good. Yes.
I thought he played. He was really bad the first 3 weeks, but week 4, if week 4 is a sign of things to come, the Chiefs found a starting guard for the next 3 years, including this year.
Kingsley was very good in this game, albeit against a depleted front. He's got to sustain it. Jawan Taylor also was pretty good in this game. We didn't hear his name, which is a good thing if you're an offensive lineman. Travis Kelce had his best game of the year. Travis Kelce looked like he was more engaged. He was more involved. It was just an all-around performance for their Chiefs. Obviously, their defense has been excellent in 3 or 4 games this year. It's looking like they're looking closer and closer to what they were in 2023 on that side of the ball. They've been lights out in 3 games in a row against, 2 pretty good offenses. I know the Giants are what they are, but the Ravens and the Eagles are 2 really good offenses. The Ravens were healthy on offense. That's the thing. And the Chiefs shut them down. Lamar Jackson played very poorly before he left. It was one of the worst games he's played in a long time. He had his first interception of the year. And as for the Ravens, like they're all of a sudden in some trouble here. Like you're 1-3, you're 2 games back of the division. I still, in my heart of hearts, think if they get healthy, I think they'll probably still make the playoffs. Just because if you have Lamar Jackson, you have a chance. Like I just can't see a team with a healthy Lamar Jackson missing the playoffs. But it's now or never. Like it's kind of a 1 game season for them moving forward for Baltimore. They have
Yeah.
little margin for error. And
Yeah, and this,
as for the Chiefs, it was refreshing to see an offensive performance of that sort. Hopefully they can sustain it, especially with Rashee Rice coming back in a few weeks. All right, Bears Raiders. The Bears beat the Raiders 25-24, blocking a field goal at the last second. Caleb Williams let a go-ahead drive. Caleb Williams was not that good in this game. But he was clutch. He was good when it mattered. After his career day against the Cowboys, Geno Smith was horrible. He threw 3 interceptions. Geno Smith has played very poor football for the Raiders thus far this year. So it's 7 interceptions in 4 games. He has 2 3 interception games. He is not the guy. He does not look like the guy that they traded for, or even the guy who he was in Seattle, who was an objectively above average quarterback for 3 years. Ashton Genty on the bright side played very well. He had his breakout game, but it wasn't enough for the Raiders to win. The Bears, all of a sudden, 2-2 at the bye. Vibes are much better. Caleb Williams is looking like he's making some growth. And for the Raiders, you're 1-3. You have the Colts next week. I think it could get ugly fast for Vegas. Like I didn't pick them to make
yeah.
the playoffs. I'm going 8-9 this year. I thought they'd be like a scrappy team, but like I just didn't think they had enough talent defensively. I did not envision Geno Smith being one of their biggest problems thus far this year. I thought he'd elevate them. He looks no different than Jimmy Garoppolo and Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew and all the crap they've had at quarterback the last few years. He has not played well thus far.
No, and I think if you take away Max Crosby from this defense, this is probably the first or second worst defense in
Yeah,
football.
it's
Geno
terrible.
Smith has been awful. Their offensive line has been disappointing because I thought their offensive line could block better than this. Granted,
Yeah.
there's a lot of bad offensive lines right now, so they're probably not as bad compared to the rest of the league. But I thought they had a chance to be like an objectively good unit. But this is a team where we knew their secondary / defense was going to be bad. We thought Geno Smith would at least be respectable, and he's been a train wreck. It appears, given how well Sam Darnold has been playing, it looks like Seattle may have been the system more than Geno Smith has. Geno
Yeah, I
Smith
mean,
was.
Seattle, give the Seahawks credit. They know when to move on from quarterbacks. We saw it with Russell
Yep.
Wilson in 2022, and Geno, that was his best year. Geno was awesome in 2022. He was legitimately like a top 7 quarterback in football that year. And then they go from Geno to Sam Darnold. So, the Seahawks know what they're doing when it comes to making quarterback changes, and it's getting late early for the Las Vegas Raiders. And for the Bears, like, I don't know how good the Bears are, but kudos to them. They win 2 straight, and the vibes are different in Chicago right now. We'll see how the rest of the season goes. All right, Lucas, we have our first tie of the season on Sunday Night Football, and what a wacky game this was between the Cowboys and the Packers. 40-40, the second highest scoring tie in NFL history. Dak Prescott and Jordan Love both put an absolute show in this game. Dak Prescott was on a different world in this one, despite the fact he had no CeeDee Lamb. Jordan Love, like most quarterbacks against the Cowboys defense, sliced and diced. He threw 3 touchdowns, all to Romeo Doubs. Josh Jacobs ran for 2 touchdowns. But the Cowboys defense sucking is not a surprise. Like, they're going to suck in most games. The Packers defense playing the way it did, giving up 40 points to a CeeDee Lamb offense. I did not see that coming. And Lucas, it's not been a great week for your Packers. You picked them to go to the Super Bowl. They lose to Cleveland. They tie Dallas, giving up 40 points. They do have a bye, so they can regroup a little bit. So what's your concern level with Green Bay right now?
I Out of 10, I'm probably going to go like a 5. Like I'm not.
Okay.
I can't really say I'm objectively concerned. They'll have a bye week. They'll regroup. But I thought the offense scored 40 points. I know it was 40 points in 70 game minutes, but it's 40 points nonetheless. The defense, I think, will be better. I think Micah Parsons, I know like maybe a lot of people think he didn't play that well. His PFF defensive grade was 94 in that game.
Yeah, Micah was good.
I don't think he played 94 level, but the rest of this defense, I think, kind of like signaled what we were telling beforehand. It's just not very talented. It's a well coached unit, but like they don't have a lot of like true difference makers unless like
Yeah.
Rashawn Gary or Devontae Wyatt's having a good game along with Parsons. That secondary is all right, but like it's not great. If they're going up against a great receiving core or a great quarterback, they're really vulnerable. But I think the story of this game was Dak Prescott.
Oh
Like
yes, yes.
like he was like I don't understand the Dak Prescott hate. I think he's a
I
bona
don't
fide top
either.
10 quarterback,
I
and
think
he's
he's a
not a
top six.
superstar.
I think he's a top 6 or 7 quarterback. I think Dak Prescott, not to interrupt
Six,
you,
seven,
Lucas,
yeah.
I think he's been the best quarterback in football through 4 weeks. He has been
I would agree.
unbelievable thus far.
Yep, yep, I would agree. I think in this game, like it kind of proved that like, hey, like I think the Cowboys were right to pay him. Like I kind of like my unpopular opinion at the time was I didn't blame the Cowboys for giving him that contract. I didn't love it. But the only reason why I wouldn't have paid him that contract is if the Cowboys just don't have the infrastructure around him to justify paying a quarterback that money, even if
Yeah.
he's good enough. But like Dak Prescott is good enough to be paid because going on a little side tangent, I know we're getting up there in time, but I think when it comes to paying quarterbacks, as long as you have like a bona fide top 8 guy that's like consistently like top 10, and you could like maybe a down year, he's like the 13th best quarterback, but like if you know 75% of the time he's going to be a top 10 quarterback, you might as well just pay him because the cap's going to rise. It's going to get buried by other contracts. I think Dak
Hmm.
Prescott's a guy you pay. I don't know if Baker Mayfield's a guy you pay 55 million a year. I don't know if Kyler Murray's a guy you pay that money. Trevor Lawrence, but I think Dak Prescott is in that like small circle of like guys, yeah, you pay and you don't even think twice.
Yeah, I agree. Like I think Dak. I mean, I don't think Dak is the reason the Cowboys have come up short in the playoffs. He's not blameless for sure, but he's an
Yeah,
excellent
he's at his
quarterback.
faults. Yeah, yeah,
But like
he's not
he's
he's not a bona fide top 4 with like Josh Allen, Mahomes, Burrow, Lamar.
yeah,
And so he's going to have flaw. He's not going to be perfect. He's not a top
no.
bona fide MVP every year, but like he's really freaking good. There are a lot of teams in the NFL that would be bona fide playoff teams or bona fide Super Bowl contenders with Dak Prescott. Do you think the Bengals would have gotten killed twice in a row with Dak instead of Jake Browning?
Oh
No.
my God, no. Like, yeah, Dak is very good. He does a lot of things well. Great processor, great under pressure. Jordan Love's pretty damn good too. I think he was excellent in this one. Kept them in it despite a poor game for their defense. And by the way, not to before we'll move on to our last game quickly. Matt LaFleur, what on earth was that at the end of the game? Like that was, I mean, I just think he coached a poor game.
Yeah.
Um, Punting from midfield on 4th and 2, and then getting aggressive at the end of the half when you could have just kneeled and gone to the half, and then that sequence at the end of overtime where it was pretty obvious he was playing just for a tie. Like he was more concerned about giving the ball back to the Cowboys than he was than actually winning the game because of how good Brandon Aubrey is. But like, I don't know, man. I thought it was a pretty cowardice coaching performance by Matt LaFleur last night.
Yeah. I mean, when pretty much when the Packers had the ball 1st and 10 at the 2-minute warning at the Cowboys 40, you thought, okay, they're going to go down the field and score, but it just didn't seem like they were ever in a rush. They had a timeout. They only had one, but like you have 2 minutes to go 40 yards against a bad defense, and you're Matt LaFleur. You got to at least try. I think it seems like once they lost yardage to, I think it was the play to Matthew Golden. I think
Yeah.
they just, I think that's what after that. I think that's when they decided to play it safe. But man, they decided to run to Emmanuel Wilson with 52 seconds left. I
Yeah, that
understand
was
like maybe they got a good look, but like you got to like drop back because at that point, okay, two things happen. You either score a touchdown pass because you're 12 yards out or you're 19 yards out, so something gets open, or you throw an incomplete pass and then you at least save the clock so you could drop back it again. Because at that point, they're at the 19-yard line. So that was pretty much a gimme field goal for an NFL
mhm.
kicker. It's not like, even if they lost 10 yards on a sack, they were probably okay to get the tie. Granted, it would have been 45 yards, but it's not like they were at like the 30-yard line and like, hey, if we lose 10 yards, like a field goal is not a guarantee where like, fine, we'll play it safe. They should have been more aggressive, taken 3 shots to the end zone, and at that point they would have gone down respectively, or gone down to a tie
Absolutely.
respectively.
Absolutely. So the Packers have their bye. Luckily, they get the Bengals at home at the Cardinals. So they have time to get right. The Steelers after that. And as for the Cowboys, look, the Cowboys can score points. Like Dak is playing out of his mind. I think Schottenheimer's doing a good job coaching. But with how bad that defense is, they can lose any game. And that includes the fact they play the Jets and the Panthers their next 2 weeks. Speaking of the Jets, they're 0-4. They fall to the Dolphins 27-21. The Dolphins get their first win of the season, first of not very many wins, I imagine. Um, Look, I mean, the Jets, I feel like they lost this game more than the Dolphins won it. They had 3 fumbles. They committed a lot of penalties. Justin Fields, I mean, had one insane highlight-esque touchdown run, which is what he's good for. He's an athletic freak. He wasn't I mean, he wasn't great throwing the ball as he normally isn't. Tua was fine, I guess. Like he threw 2 touchdowns, both of them to Darren Waller, who came out of retirement. I mean, Tua was okay. He did his job against a bad team. I don't think this game means anything, Lucas. I mean, the Dolphins, they won. They get off this side. They play the Panthers next week, so maybe they can get to 2-3 and convince themselves, like, hey, maybe this season matters after all. And the Jets, I mean, I actually expected more of the Jets. Like, I thought they'd be like a scrappy 7-win team. They're 0-4. Like, I don't know, man. I just think they're very bad on defense. They're so one-dimensional in offense with how limited of a passer Justin Fields is. I just think it's going to be another long year for the Jets this season. I don't see. I mean, I think they're probably going to end up winning like 4 games. I mean, I know they played a relatively tough schedule before this week, but I don't know. Like, I think they still. I think they've still been disappointing, even though I think everybody had relatively low expectations for them.
Yeah, this just I'm still like not sold on Aaron Glenn. I think he's a good leader of men, but
Yeah,
whether he could coach a football team is I'm not sold on. I'm not pessimistic, but I'm not going to sit here like saying, "Oh, I think he's like being screwed over by a talentless team." There are just some bad coaches out there with bad
yeah,
teams. We'll see. But Justin Fields, eh. Like the Dolphins, I think Tua played very well in this game. Like I think this is by far his best game of the year, but it was
yeah.
against
He was
bad
good. I
defense.
mean, he was
It was,
good.
it was,
Yeah,
it
he
was
was
against a
fine.
bad defense. Like
Yeah,
and to be fair, Tua's always played well against the Jets. That's like been a thing for his pretty much entire career. So it's not exactly breaking news. But no offense to Tyreek Hill, um,
yes. We'll
that
talk about
sucks.
that.
That sucks for that
I
sucks for
actually
Tyreek
didn't see
Hill.
it
And
live. I didn't see it live because I was watching the Broncos game, but I saw the replay. Yeah, I don't know when we're going to see Tyreek Hill on a football field again. Tyreek Hill, obviously one of the best receivers of his generation, former Chief, was an integral part of starting their dynasty, them winning Super Bowl 54 in his current home stadium against the Niners, helped them get back to the Super Bowl the next year. That was a pretty gruesome looking injury, and he's a 30, I think he's like a 31-year-old receiver, older receiver. You know, there were talks of him, going to another team. Maybe it was back to the Chiefs. Who knew? Yeah, that's not going to happen this year. I think he's easily out for the year and possibly longer. Lucas, what say you? Do you think there's a world where Tyreek Hill doesn't play again?
it depends because I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to sit here and speculate. But if his medical team, the Dolphins medical team, if they think like, no, dude, like even with all the surgeries in the world, like we don't recommend it. But at the same time, Alex Smith returned to the field like
True.
after his brutal leg injury, so I'm not going to sit here and say never. I was talking about it with my cousin later tonight. He thought his career was over. I'm like, Odell Beckham got multiple chances like late in his career when it didn't seem like he deserved it, just because he was Odell Beckham. And Odell Beckham did not accomplish half as much as what Tyreek Hill did. So I think if he gets the like thumbs up from the doctors to return, he will definitely sign with the team. There's no question. But if he gets that thumbs down, the doctors will say we're going to force you to medically retire. Then he's obviously done. But if the doctors say you can return, though you might not be the same player, a team's definitely going to give him a chance because he's Tyreek Hill. So like even
Yeah.
if he's like half the player he was, that's still better than like 90% of receivers in the league.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate because I mean this Dolphins team wasn't going anywhere this year. This win doesn't change my mind of that. But maybe Tyreek was going to go to a team that can contend. Potentially that was Kansas City. Who knows? I mean, he's a polarizing figure because of some off the field issues that he's had. But you never want to see that. It was a tough watch. I don't know why ESPN showed a replay. Like I didn't need to see that more than once. But prayers up for Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
And then kudos to the Dolphins for getting their first win. I don't know how many of those we'll see. And the Jets are still the Jets. All right, Lucas, do you have any parting thoughts after we recapped everything that went on in week 4?
Nope. Other than I really don't know who's good, who's bad. I think we kind of know for like maybe 8 teams, we know if they're definitely good or definitely bad. But there's a
Yeah,
lot of like question marks out there for a variety of reasons, like injuries or just like if you're the Atlanta Falcons, it would seem like you go up and down every single week.
yeah, it's a roller
But
coaster.
other than that, I think we're going to learn a lot about a lot of these teams in a few weeks. But I'm excited. The NFL season's in full swing, and I just love the month of October so much. I'm gonna yap
Yes,
about it for a little bit. I think it's the most underrated month. You got Halloween at the end, you got football season, baseball postseason, NBA starting late in the month, NHL, my one of my favorites, my second favorite league, is starting up. It just seems like everything's in full swing, and it's the perfect temperature, not too hot, not too cool, and I just love the fall season.
Oh, I agree. I think it's the best month of the year. It was 90 in Lincoln today, which I'm kind of tired of the
Jeez.
hot weather. Yep. So Lucas and I will be back on Wednesday. We will look ahead to week 5. We'll do some other segments of maybe we'll do some contenders or pretenders through 4 weeks of teams that have 3 or more wins, if they're legitimate threats to get to the Super Bowl or not. But before then, Lucas, thank you for your time, and we will see you on Wednesday.